Yo guys, finally, the podcast. Here we are. I'm so sorry that I've been delaying this for so long, and I know I kept fucking spouting shite about it, to be honest, for ages. But we're finally here. The podcast is finally here. Hello everybody. That's my hand. But if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're watching and listening on YouTube, thanks for coming back. To all the 75 new subscribers from the last video, you're more than welcome to join us. Thanks for subscribing, I suppose, or stop following me, one or the other. Nah, I'm joking, guys. You're all welcome here. So for the launch of Drive with IGD, I thought this would be the best thing to start the podcast on. I heard on the radio the other day on a show on RT1. I actually can't even remember the guy's name, what the name of the show was, but they were talking about this thing called Operation Purge, which is Ireland's task plan to deal with Brexit in Dublin Port, as in regards to trucks and truck drivers. And needless to say, guys, it absolutely infuriated me. And anyone who has listened to this show, which I know a lot of you have, because I've actually picked this out of Irish Rigs to link to it, they'll all know it absolutely infuriated me. It made me so angry to realise just the fucking clowns that run this country, man. It's an absolute joke. So what I'm going to do for you guys, the clip is about 13 minutes long, and I'm going to insert it in here, and I want you all to listen to it, and I want you to like decode it yourself, but I'll be reacting to it once it's finished playing. But I just need to put it out there, because no one is talking about how truck drivers are going to get on after Brexit, we'll put this very clearly here, if it wasn't for trucks, there would be no society, there would be no jobs, there would be nothing without trucks, and I'm not just saying that as an embittered truck driver, which I kind of am. I'm saying that as a realist, I'm very real now. All the situations I sort of just try and put forward, like, you know, the situation, no bullshit, that's the situation there. So we're going to listen to it, we're going to decode it, and we're going to see what happens. And just for anyone that's not clear on the whole situation, Brexit, if we don't know what Brexit is, you're living under a rock as far as I'm concerned, Brexit means Britain are leaving the EU, and they're absolutely throwing water in everyone else's faces around them, and they don't seem to have a clue what's going on either. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys. Listen to it, really listen to it hard, and let me know what you think. Get in the comments and what are your thoughts on it, but I will be reacting to it after this clip.
A big traffic plan will be launched early next month to prevent Brexit-related congestion at Dublin Port spilling out into the city, the port tunnel and the motorway network. The plan, called Operation Purge, will be designed to ensure that the tunnel remains open and that key thoroughfares around it, including the M1 and the M50, do not become congested. For more on how it might work, I'll speak in a few minutes to Eamon O'Reilly, Chief Executive of the Dublin Port Company. But first, I'm joined by Simon Carswell, the Irish Times Public Affairs Editor. Simon, post-Brexit-related traffic congestion around Dublin Port, just how bad could it get?
Well, it could be very bad, given the amount of traffic that comes into Dublin Port. You're looking at close to 3,000 heavy goods vehicles, trucks, lorries, vans come through Dublin Port on average a day. And the difficulty that the port has is that the traffic peaks at particular points in the day. So every 6 hours, there's 2 ferries coming from Holyhead. So there's 4 waves in a day of ferries. And there can be up to about 7 lane kilometres of trucks coming in at those times. And if there are delays because of these new border checks that will be required on goods coming in from the UK post-Brexit, then that could lead to congestion. And the fear is that if that congestion clogs up the port, that the traffic can back up out Dublin Port Tunnel and up to the M1 and the M50. So this plan, Operation Purge, is in place. The purpose of it is to prevent the port tunnel getting backed up and traffic stopping in it. And there's very strict rules that you're not allowed to have standing traffic in a tunnel. So what that means is that the traffic needs to keep moving. Lorries will be sent down through the port and out the other northbound, out again up to the M1 and the M50.
Just a massive big loop and told to go where or where to park?
Well, this is the unknown part of the plan. This is yet to be decided. They had looked before, government had looked at the possibility of taking some of the long-term car parking at Dublin Airport and parking some of the trucks there. But it looks like the trucks now will be directed to go out and to go to where they normally rest. So you're looking at service stations along the M1 further out, so to where trucks will currently park and wait to go into the port. That's where they will be directed to now.
And what kind of capacity would be in those locations for them, Simon?
Well, I mean, there's existing capacity as it is now. You will see if you drive up the M1, you will see trucks parked up at various service stations along that route, along various Apple Green plazas. You'd see them, and they're parked there waiting. They would drive then on into the port ahead of ferries going out within the hour. So they would basically go back to those places. It's not clear yet where they would be backed up. If there is quite a lot of stacking required for the lorries. And we're talking significant amounts of trucks. So that's part of the plan that's still to be devised.
Yeah, stay with us, Simon. Eamon O'Reilly, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Sean.
You, as I say, Chief Executive of the Dublin Port Company. We've been hearing about trial runs at the Port of Dover to deal with possible congestion that will arise after the 31st of October. Have you had any similar trial runs in Dublin?
No, the short answer, Sean, is no, we haven't. But as we get closer to Brexit, we need to look at contingency plans if the worst case scenario happens. And it doesn't matter what the reason for it is. If the port congests, we must be able to say what we as Dublin Port Company are going to do. The big commitment we're going to be making, and we'll be publicising details at the start of October, is that we will not allow congestion of the port to block the Dublin Port Tunnel or the M50 or the M1. We had some instances in recent weeks where that indeed did happen. What's actually happened over recent months is we have lost 10 hectares of our lands within Dublin Port. We have a total of 260. We have lost those, if you like, to the State Border Inspection Services. So we've had to make lands and facility and infrastructure available for the checks that are going to be necessary. And that has removed the small bit of buffer capacity we had within the port. So I wouldn't be too dramatic to say we're on a knife edge. But if we're at a position where there is significant congestion, and it actually doesn't matter whether it's down to a Brexit-related issue or indeed bad weather or any factor, we need to have a mitigation in place that we can ensure that the problems within Dublin Port do not become the problems of the city.
You talk about the loss of that 10 hectares, that's about 20 acres or so, give or take. What's that land going to be used for?
Well, it's land on which there's going to be the locations where, for example, Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine will carry out inspection checks and identification checks on trucks coming off ferries which are carrying foodstuffs, which are now subject to controls or will be subject to controls which they haven't been in the past. Elsewhere, there's significant lands that are being made available which have warehouses on them which have been adapted to provide locations where trailers can be opened and the goods inside inspected. So all of the border controls required because of Britain leaving the single European market, those inspections have to take place close to where the goods come off ships. Close to where the goods come off ships is that 10 hectares within Dublin Port. And
they will be presumably occupied by trucks that previously would have just driven straight out of the port.
Correct. So this morning, two great big ferries with a total of about 8 kilometres of vehicles on them would have arrived into Dublin Port at about 5:30. The great majority of the cargo trucks on those ships would have driven straight out of the terminal and straight into the Dublin Port Tunnel to deliver goods all around Dublin and the Greater Dublin area.
And instead of which they will be detained, or at least some of them or a lot of them will be detained for these inspections. But the idea that you're giving this guarantee, you won't allow congestion at the port to block either the tunnel or the M50. So what are the drivers to do?
If we have congestion, and we know this because of what happened in recent weeks, hauliers coming to the port, TII will shut the Dublin Port Tunnel, number one, the southbound bore, and the trucks then have to go elsewhere. What we need to do is to make sure we don't get to a situation where TII have to shut the southbound bore. So the concept of this is desperately simple. Dublin Port is like a jam jar. Once it's full, you cannot put any more into it. So instead of shutting the tunnel, whatever comes through the tunnel, we U-turn it within the port and put it back out the northbound bore of the port tunnel. In other words, keep the tunnel operating even if the port is congested for a period.
Now, Simon Coates, you was saying in today's Irish Times, the big conundrum in all of this is that we are dealing with unbelievable levels of uncertainty. People are allowing themselves to fall into a trap where they're trying to answer questions they cannot answer. Now, what are those questions?
Well, I think that the sort of obvious question is, let's take the challenge that state services have, Revenue, Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, and Department of Health. They're having to deploy very significant resources which are planned, and I know they're going to be in place. They're going to have to deal with loads coming off ships. The biggest uncertainty is whether those loads have all of the necessary paperwork done. Is the information within the system to allow the resources the state puts into the infrastructure that we as a port have provided, is the information there to allow that to work smoothly? That is the biggest uncertainty that exists.
Yes, but when you say, they're answering questions they cannot answer, I could have put that another way. You haven't a clue what's going to happen.
Well, do you have a clue? Does anybody have a clue?
Well, it's not my job to run. It's not my job to run Dublin Port.
No, what I'm referring to is the level of Brexit preparedness. I haven't heard anybody say that every importer is ready, that every haulier is ready.
Well, one way to find out, perhaps, or to get an idea, would be to do these dry runs like they're having in Dover. But you don't have any plans for those, do you?
No, the dry runs that were done in Dover, I think that was running trucks out to Manston Airport. I think they were largely and probably rightly ridiculed after the event. What we need to be able to do as Dublin Port, we've got emergency response plans in many aspects of our business. If the port congests, we similarly need a response plan in place. We need to explain to people what that plan is so that if we have to implement it, they know what's going to happen and what's happening. Rather than a lot of hauliers and other people on the roads being congested, not knowing what's happening, and with no adequate response to free that congestion. Our objective is to make sure we do not put congestion into the tunnel and onto the road.
One of our listeners, Colm, has summed up this as saying, it sounds like Dublin Port's plan to deal with the tailbacks is just to turn trucks away at the gate and tell them to go find somewhere else to park. That's hardly a plan.
It's a response to an emergency situation. If the port congests, it cannot be decongested quickly.
Yeah, but the question is...
What you don't want to do is to keep adding to the problem.
Yeah,
what you want to do is to confine the problem so you can deal with it, and then...
Yeah, but where do the trucks go? Because, you've lost the 20 hectares, but I doubt if there's 20 hectares to spare or even there in those Apple Green and other stations, the motorway stops.
Where the trucks go, if you think about where the trucks have come from, the trucks have locations that they can go to. Where they came from, they can go to motorway stops. There will be other areas where hauliers are well used and well know.
But if they're clogged up, what happens then?
What happens then is, if they clog up, and I don't see any. I think if you look at the capacity that we have in Dublin Port for dealing with tailbacks and congestion, it is a tiny fraction of the capacity that exists outside of the port. We can't solve that greater problem from within the resources that we have.
The tiny fraction of the capacity that exists outside the port, but where outside the port does that capacity exist?
There is capacity, obviously, some capacity in those motorway network stops. There is capacity where the trucks have come from. There are haulier yards. None of this is satisfactory from the point of view of giving you a definitive answer. But there is capacity out there. We have to focus on the 260 hectares that we have here in Dublin Port. If that becomes congested, we can't simply sit and say, well, it's not our problem. Our
And
response to that has to be we limit the problem to within Dublin Port.
yeah, you were saying at the outset, Eamon, that those two big ferries, they disgorged something like 8 kilometres in length of traffic. I mean, how many kilometres of traffic or tailback can your 260 hectares? How much of that? How many kilometres can it absorb?
You can probably get about, that's off the top of my head, Sean, there's probably about 3 kilometres of internal roads within the port, okay?
Yeah.
If those congest, you can probably queue within the port about 250 trucks.
I see.
Now, if there's 250 trucks already within the port and it's congestion, you can't get any more in, your jam pot is full, and trucks keep coming and coming and coming, that's the problem that we're trying to address.
So, well, that suggests that you need a hectare per truck if you've got 260 hectares.
No. A lot of that land is the land of container terms of oil tank farms. We've got roads and we've got yards. The 260 hectares includes the yards that are already occupied with oil tanks, container terms, etc., etc.
Yeah, a lot of reaction from our listeners to this. Surely Apple Green won't let its service stations get jammed up so Dublin Port can kick the can. French Customs did a dry run too. Why are we not preparing? Just clarify that one, Eamon O'Reilly, finally. Do you have a plan to do dry runs?
What we will do dry runs of, we will do whatever we need to do as we implement Operation Purge. We will absolutely test that and trial that.
How?
For us to do, well, we need to identify all of the steps, deploy the people and make sure they do the right thing that needs to be done. For us to do a live run of this involves us congesting the tunnel and the motorway network, which we won't do. What we'll be ready to do is to address that eventuality should it arise in.
So, I suppose the first thing that you'll have to say about that entire interview is just, what the fuck is wrong with these people, man? Like, I listened to that whole thing. I'm not joking you. This is actually the third time I'm after having to record this podcast because I didn't realise my microphone wasn't plugged in. And when I listened back to it, it sounded like I was talking through the wrong end of a trombone or something. So, like, the first thing I think about that Eamon O'Reilly fella is, how did he get that job? Like, there's no way he has any qualifications at all. Or either if he doesn't have any qualifications, he definitely doesn't have any cop on at all. Like, most of these lads that are in charge of these operations where it's surrounded by like a HGV or agri environment have no experience of HGV or agri, so they'll never understand the problems that we face every single day of the week, you know. So, like, you just have to listen to him. Like, how are you in charge? how are you there? Like, I just don't understand. So I hope this podcast gets picked up by some media or some radio or whatever. I'm gonna do my best to refrain from cursing, okay? Even though I probably already have. But I'm gonna explain how we feel as truck drivers, and not only am I going to tell you how we feel, I'm going to tell you what most likely is going to happen to us, and I'm going to give some solutions that might actually solve this mess that is Brexit and Ireland and its parts and the M50 and the M1 and all of this mess we call our country. So, to depict basically what Mr. O'Reilly's saying, if you didn't understand it, or to be honest, if you just skipped the whole way through, because it is a long interview, but if you don't listen to it, you won't really understand the context of what all of it's about. But basically, the big plan, Operation Purge, the whole big idea, this big media outlet, this big splash of cash to tell the Ireland what we're doing. Basically, all he's going to do is, when the port gets too full, he's going to tell the trucks to turn around and go somewhere else. He's going to close the gate to the port. He's going to U-turn every lorry that doesn't fit at the gate back out towards the M1 through the port tunnel again. So, first of all, I have to depict his analogy and how he was going to fix it, right? First of all, if you turn all of these trucks away... Now, before I get into that, Sean O'Rourke you would get a big high five from every truck driver in the country for your response to Mr. O'Reilly. Okay, I'd just like to tell you that for a fact, from coming from me. You're the only one who stood up for us there. Not a lot of radio presenters, media, news outlets, newspapers would stand up for the truck driver because they don't understand what we have to put up with every day. Do you get what I mean? So, Sean O'Rourke, thank you very much. But first of all, where are the trucks going to go? He turned around and he said, oh, well, they have yards to go to and they have the service stations on the M1. Right, just a small problem there. If we go out there, or we go back to our yards, or we go to these service stations, which the ones here he is referring to here is in Lusk, right, and that is a 15-minute drive or 20-minute drive from Dublin Port itself. Okay, so if the truck driver is 20 minutes away in this Apple Green garage, which let's just presume they have space for this truck driver because there's going to be so many of them turned around. Like he said, on average there'll be about 3,000 trucks a day, and I know for a fact it's more than 3,000 trucks a day. I see it every day, and if it's 3,000 trucks, those 3,000 trucks are coming to the port twice a day. So you're realistically talking about 8,000 to 9,000 lorries every single day through Dublin Port, from 5 a.m. right up until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, and that's not even including the ferries that go in and out. So let's just presume when the truck driver gets back to Lusk or wherever he's meant to park, how is he going to know when to return? And how is he going to know when it's clear? You know, like did no one sit him down and say, right, here, Eamon, before you go on the phone there to Sean O'Rourke, would you not just sit down there and have a quick think about what you're going to say there? Oh, no, I'll just do it there now to get it over. That's probably exactly what he was thinking. And Sean O'Rourke put him in his place, so to speak. But so right, the driver gets out to Lusk. He gets out to one of these service stations that's 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away from Dublin Port itself. Okay, I know for a fact that Apple Green service stations do not have the capacity for 6,000 lorries. Okay, they just don't. They have the capacity for about 30 or 40 maximum, and then they will be full to the brim. There will be nowhere to park. That's including parking at the diesel pumps and not parking in the truck space, because I think in the truck spaces are all together now. I've never officially counted the ones that are in Apple Green, but I'm guessing it's not more than 20 or 30. If you're wondering what this noise is, by the way, it's the squeaky as chair. I will get a better chair, and I'm drinking a glass of water because, as I said, I've been after recording this for about, I think I recorded it 3 times in total, and it wasn't recording properly. So the joys of weeding out the podcast, I suppose. And apologies that the podcast isn't on Spotify or on iMusic or anything like that, is because it takes a while to get it approved and get it uploaded. So we will get there, lads, but just not right now. It's going to stick to YouTube for the time being. Anyway, as I was saying, once the truck driver gets there, okay, what happens if Apple Green's full? Where's he going to go then? And then he Mr. O'Reilly were trying to say, oh, well, these hauliers, they have yards. What do you mean they have yards? Of course they have yards. Where are they going to park them at the end of the day, like? And he's there thinking, oh, well, they can just go there. Well, then what's the point in even taking the lorry out in the first place? What's the point in even trying to go into the port? Like, you know, we don't wake up every morning, and the hauliers don't wake up every morning to gamble with their business. Like, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're meant to wake up and know, look, the earlier you go, the less likely you're going to be sitting in the queue. And we all know that, like, we're not fucking thick, you know. But, like, your whole plan is just a nightmare, and you've no idea what you're going to actually do. You're just spoofing your way into getting into the media articles to look like you're doing something. So, I don't know, man. He's an awful dose of a man, whoever gave him that job, I swear to God. Now, bear in mind, right, okay, I'm not gonna defame Mr. O'Reilly or anything like that, but I've always said it, maybe not on YouTube and stuff like that, but with the likes of Brexit or any of these big news articles that take over the news for months, years and weeks at a time, what these are genuine distractions into what's actually going on that the news isn't picking up on because that's such a big story, okay? Now, if you so happen to Google Eamon O'Reilly Dublin Port, you will find some really, really nasty stuff about him online, published in the last couple of months now. This is not long ago. This is very, very recent, okay? That he's off squandering money, which is taxpayers' money, because Dublin Port is a state-owned company, okay? This guy is not fit to be doing the job he's doing, and I'll just say no more. But that's the God's honest truth. He should not be where he is. A truck driver, any truck driver, could do the job that he does probably 10 times better. So I'm going to leave that at that. So in regards to the truck driver, what is he going to do? Well, there's not a lot you can do. At the end of the day, the way Dublin Port is ran is very unique, and you're just going to have to suffer. And that's the way they're going on about it, as in they don't know what the driver's going to have to do. It means your queues getting in and out of port are going to be tripled or quadrupled. Your working hours are probably going to be shot. You'd be lucky to even get anything done during the day if you had to go in and out of port in the morning and the evening. You'd be wasting your time. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to give a couple of solutions that could easily be put in place. Now, I say easily with a very modest term, okay? The stuff I have, the ideas I have, they will cost a fucking fortune, and there's no doubt about that. They will cost money, okay? But nothing comes for free, so it should just happen. The first thing that should happen is the East Link and the Port Tunnel Toll Bridge should be removed, effective immediately, okay? And now I know people will say, well, what will happen to the people who work in those tolls or whatever? Well, they can now become customs officers, because as it turns out, Dublin Port are hiring them. Yes, I know it's not going to be the exact same role or whatever that they do, but could they not do that job? I'm fairly sure you don't need a PhD to be a customs officer, you know? So I'd get rid of the tolls, even if just leave it there or whatever, just take the barriers off, because people are going to have to get into the port. And with that that's just going to cause traffic congestion. The two the two toll bridges, the East Link and the Port Tunnel Toll Bridge, and plus you are just greedy. Oh, you are greedy pigs leaving those things there anyway. Especially the East Link, that should have been gone years ago. And if anyone has been in and out of Dublin Port at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, it's a disaster. It's a disaster, especially if you're over in marine terminals over the south side of the city. You are lucky to get out of there within about 45 minutes to an hour. And that's very, very lucky. Everyone knows what I'm talking about that's been in and out of there. So what they should do, get rid of those two tolls straight away. No messing. Get rid of them. Gone. Move the people that work in them into the port. They're going to need customs officers anyway. So, you know, they're not going to be out of a job. And I'm fairly sure that the toll tunnels are state run. Could be very wrong. Haven't done my research. Anyway, it can be easy sorted. So you could do that. Make use of all the empty yards. Turn them. Offer the likes of Circle K or whoever else service stations to come in and provide amenities for the drivers and for whoever, and not just the drivers. Anyone that goes to and from England on a ferry, they're gonna need a place to go. The service centre in Dublin Port is not going to be enough. Okay, so there's a couple of empty yards around Dublin Port. Make use of them. Don't try and be greedy and try and rent them out. There has to, well, they probably will. They'll get rent if they put in a service station, the likes of that. So straight away, there needs to be a service station superstop be put in somewhere with parking for 200 vehicles. It'd be hard to find it now in Dublin Port. I know it's not massive, but you'll have to do something in regards to that. The next thing that you should be doing is, what about all Ireland's, the other parts on the east side of the country? We have Drogheda, we have Arklow, we have Waterford, Balbriggan. Now I know Balbriggan's not really set up for that, but Drogheda and Arklow Port are more than capable of handling a couple of ferries, you know, with a bit of infrastructure and a bit of investment in both of the towns. And why I say Arklow and Drogheda for is because there's two towns that could really do with the jobs, first of all, and they could really do with some infrastructure. So if they put Dublin or Drogheda Port and Arklow Port to service, okay, and anyone from the Arklow, Wicklow, Wexford direction Well, now there is not a lot of jobs down there. In fact, there is very few jobs. You're lucky to get in anywhere that is full time down there. Like, I know there will be a few places looking for jobs, but like, could you not do with the extra investment down there? Like, they're so caught up with Dublin that they forget about everywhere else, you know. So open up those two places, and Waterford as well. But as far as I know, Waterford has opened its ports to a bit more action as late as the last year, as far as I know. But yeah, open up those places. Drogheda could really deal with some infrastructure. Arklow could definitely deal with some jobs and some. It'll bring tourism. It'll bring all sorts into the town, you know. So do that. Invest into those two towns. Invest in their bus and rail networks, or don't even invest government wise. Privatise the routes. You know, let someone else make some money. You know, let some other Irish company make some money. Then what you could do after that is, well, if you do what I say you're gonna do and open Drogheda and Arklow ports, build the ring road for the M50. Let's call it the M25. Build a ring road like every other European city and every major capital in the world. Yeah. So build the M50 ring road, just say starting in Drogheda, going all the way around the M50 from about 30 to 40 kilometre distance from the actual M50. And not only will this, like, I'm going to say this, 70% of the traffic on the M50 are from people that don't live in Dublin. Could be very wrong, but I know from commuting for years in my own life, I see the traffic coming from towns every day of the week. There is majority of the traffic is coming from people who don't live in Dublin. So this would make life so much easier for everybody, you know. So instead of having to come all the way into Dublin, instead of having to cut across arse roads and back roads through everywhere, build the ring road around the M50. And I don't know if any of you have noticed this yet, but what this is doing is expanding the longevity of Ireland. We're planning for the future, not trying to invest a lot of money into a quick fix for right now. You know, plan for the fucking future, man. Like, this is, you know, it's not fucking hard. Like, and when they build the ring road around the M50, it'll half the congestion in and out of Dublin City. It'll improve, like, you know, they're going on about the ecosystem in the world, and there's too many people driving diesels and petrol cars. People won't have to do half the mileage. People won't have to do half of the consumption of fuels and fossil fuels, you know. Electric cars will be more of a full-time thing in this country, you know, because the roads will be better. The amount of electricity points will be far greater with this expansion of the M50, you know. And not only is it doing that, it is spreading the economy 40 to 50 kilometres out of Dublin City. You know, like the likes of Drogheda, the likes of Navan, the likes of Maynooth, you know, all of these small towns could be massive. Like, you know, the towns could really, really take off. They could flourish, and there'll be more people inclined to go even further out from there, you know, like, because I know the housing crisis in Dublin is so bad that people are buying it. Like, I know a couple of lads that live in Mullingar and a bit further out from Mullingar, and they're travelling to Dublin every single day. Like, that's madness. Like, why should anyone have to do that? That's torture. I know the houses are cheaper out there, but God, like, the government have a lot to answer for, yeah, because they are haven't a clue what's going on. And it's scary, like, that no one's thinking about this. But anyway, regardless of the fact, if you spread this M50 ring road out there, you'll halve the congestion. It will big up the smaller towns, so people could commute from even further out from these towns, you know, and it'll still only be a 20-30 kilometre an hour or 20-30 kilometre distance to their work. Not only that, it'll improve rail networks through the country. It'll improve road networks. It will just be so much. It will be so good for the Irish economy. You know, like, we all know that Brexit is gonna bring about a massive recession. Not in Ireland, so to speak, but in Britain it will be it'll be a disaster. But that will spread over here inevitably. Like, no doubt, it will 100% spread over here. So we know a recession takes about 10 years to come out of, but by the likes of building these big roads, investing in these towns right now where we have a few spare pound. Do you know what I mean? We have we have a few spare quid to play with. Invest in it right now before shit starts hitting the fan and jobs will start becoming lost. Do you know what I mean? And like, I do have a couple of more ideas, but I'm not going to put them into this because it's just there's too much to go off. But like, if we do this, we're planning for the future, and it'd be great for the country. You know, why wouldn't you? And what else was I gonna say? Jeez, I can't even remember now. But yeah, I'd like to see that being done. Like, you know, that they're just two small ideas from a truck driver that's 23 years of age. I'd like to see what people with a fucking much larger brain than me have to say about the whole situation. But I'm just saying that because I see this every day of the week. I see the congestion. I see the housing crisis. I'm trying to buy a house at the minute and trying to find something affordable in my budget, like that I won't be paying a mortgage off for 50 years. Is kind of hard to find right now. Anyway, that's a whole separate podcast, housing and all that other sort of stuff. But what do you think of my ideas? Would you go ahead with them? And people are probably gonna ask. I know. I think I said it earlier on. I can't remember what I said now. But the 13 billion from Apple could really help right now. It could really go towards all of those ideas that I just said, and they're from someone who doesn't know really what they're talking about. You know, so like, and I'm presuming. Now, if you're Irish, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. But I'm presuming the reason why Ireland didn't take that 13 billion from Apple is because there was a few backhanders and said, nah, just don't mind 13 billion. Give me a couple $100,000 there, sure, we'll say nothing. And Europe are making Ireland take it now, and there's going to be an inquiry into this, and waiting to see what's going to unfold now. And as I said, Brexit being a distraction for what's really going on, that's exactly what went on. There is some skullduggery going on in this country, and it'll all unfold itself now after Brexit is gone. So look, guys, I'm gonna sort of try and wean off the podcast here. But tell me if you've enjoyed it, guys. The podcasts are gonna be uploaded on YouTube for now. I'm waiting to get me approved from Spotify and iCast or whatever they're called. So they'll be just here for now, and I'm sorry that there's no video to go along with this. I don't want the video, the first one, maybe the next one. What's to be expected from this podcast? Well, I'm gonna get a couple of guests on. I know I'm gonna have my little brother now. I know it sounds strange having my little brother on, but my little brother is a really big thinker. He's a lot to say, and I hope that this podcast isn't just gonna be for truck drivers. It's gonna be for everyone. I want it to be for the young people. I want it to be for older people. I want it to be for everyone. It's not going to be completely based around trucks, but it will have a lot to do with it, so to speak. And I'm so happy to announce that I'm the first trucker in Ireland to have a podcast. I think I'm the first trucker to have a podcast. Am I? I don't know. I don't think so. Let me know in the comments anyway. But yeah, I want to get a couple of guests on. I want to get a couple of other trucker YouTubers from Ireland on and see what they have to say about all this. Have a chat with them just for an hour, you know, and just see how it all goes. Ned Kelly, I'd like to have him on the podcast because he's as mad as a brush. Stavros969, if he'd be interested, I'd like to have him on it. So please let him know. Go on to his latest video and comment. Go on the IGD podcast. I'm just gonna talk about random stuff. Like I'm actually gonna touch a lot into mental health. I have a lot of experience with mental health and how to deal with it and how to you know, I don't know, I suppose talk about it, because it's a big part of my life, and it's a big part of every Irish person's life that they don't know about it yet, you know. So we will delve into mental health in the next podcast 100%. It's not going to be all dark and grim. It's going to be just about my experience, because I'm not an expert on it. What else are we going to go into? I'm going to talk about whatever I feel I want to talk about. That's the beauty of a podcast. I don't give a flying fuck what goes on at once. I am enjoying what I'm doing. And I'd just like to say, guys, right, over the past year, okay, we're just on the cusp here of 1,000 subscribers. And I just can't believe that I actually got here. You know, a year ago I dreamt of getting 1,000 subscribers, and I never thought it was actually going to come true. I never thought I was gonna keep going with this. But I have to say, over the last year, I really found myself spiritually, mentally, physically, all that sort of stuff. But I think you're really happy with yourself once you find out what you like. Now I know finding out what you don't like is a really simple thing. It's not hard to find out what you don't like, because you'll know as soon as you sample whatever it is, you'll know whether you like it or whether you don't, or maybe it might take another go. But regardless of that, when you find out what you like, you really are happy with yourself, and I couldn't be any happier in my life right now. I have really good relationships because of this, what I do on YouTube and stuff like that. People that I know years and that I thought like we don't really get on, or we don't like really talk or whatever. People like that have watched my videos, and it came up to me, like even recently have came up to me and said, "Oh, what's happening, man? I fucking love your videos and stuff." And I'm like, that's gas. Like, I think that's so funny. Like, but I think you find respect for yourself, and others find respect for you once you're being yourself, you know. And that's what I really find with these YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff like that. I really am myself. There's no fakeness to any of this. This is just who I am, like, you know. And to all the people that support me, especially all the people that DM me and like talk to me in public, I got some amount of people coming up to me during the week, and I know it sounds really like vain or whatever to say that, but I get fucking loads of people coming up and talk to me about this YouTube scene and stuff. And I've never been so happy in my life. And honest to God, I went through some dark times in my life, but oh my God, I'm literally living on the high the past year. And I know I say I'm extremely busy and I barely have time for anything, but that's how I like it. And everything is falling into place nicely. So that's one word to go out to anyone who watches my stuff. Just be yourself, man. People will love you for who you genuinely are. Don't try and do what other people are doing. If you want to try it, obviously try it, but try and find something you really, really enjoy, something that you feel like you're not putting any effort into, but you just do it, you know. And yeah, that's basically what this podcast is gonna be in a nutshell. There will be a bit more structure to it. I'm gonna have sections in it, just so it's not all just ramble from start to finish. But yeah, that's everything I want to talk about for today. And I know I said these aren't going to be like as regular as I thought. No, 100%. There is going to be a podcast every single week. Now, some weeks I might be a bit slow and it might be the next week, but bear with me, guys. I really want to put one out every single week because I really enjoy it. And I'm not even lying. Sitting down and just talking to a microphone can be so therapeutic. It'll blow your mind, even just talking to yourself. So yeah, every single week on this channel, there's gonna be at least 2 videos a week because I'm really pushing myself to be more consistent with the uploads. And I hope you are all strapped in for the ride. You are with me now at 1,000 subscribers, and I want you to be with me in a year's time when I'm at 10,000 subscribers, or the year after when I'm at 100,000 subscribers, because I've set my goal. I have locked and loaded. I've completed my goal of getting 1,000 subscribers in a year. So nothing's impossible, and just go and live your fucking dreams, man. Just go and do whatever makes you fucking happy. So with that, Yort, I love you all. Thanks so much for watching, listening, subscribing, liking, everything. Thanks for everything, guys. And I will chat to you next week on the podcast. But until then, arrivederci. Goodbye.